Radio Lewis. Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.
Hello. You're listening to Radio Lewis, where the music matters. My name's Steve Brooks, and this is Vapour Trails.
Hi there, nice to be with you. Happy you could stick around. Like to introduce Legs Larry Smith, drums. And Sam Spoon's rhythm pole. And Vern Dudley Bohay Knoll, bass guitar. And Neil Innes, piano. Come in, Rodney Slater alto saxophone. With Roger Ruskin Spear on tenor sax. Hi, Vivian Stanchel, trumpet. Big hello to Big John Wayne, xylophone. And Robert Morley, guitar. Billy Butlin, spoons. And looking very relaxed, Adolf Hitler on vibes. Nice. Princess Anne on sousaphone. Introducing Liberace clarinet. With Garnet Ted Armstrong on vocals. Lord Snooty and his pals tap dancing. In the groove with Harold Wilson violin. And Franklin McCormack on harmonica. Over there, Eric Clapton, ukulele. Hi, Eric. On my left, Sir Kenneth Clark, bass sax. Great honor, sir. And specially flown in for us, a Sessions gorilla on Vox Humana. Nice to see Incredible Shrinking Man on euphonium. Drop out with Peter Scott on duck call. Hearing from you later, Casanova on horn. Yeah, digging General de Gaulle on accordion. Really wild, General. Thank you, sir. Roy Rogers on trigger. Julian Wildman of Borneo on bongos. Count Basie Orchestra on triangle. Thank you. Great to hear the Rawlinsons on trombone. Back from his recent operation, Dan Drupp, hot. And representing the Flower People, Quasimodo on bells. Wonderful to hear Brainiac on banjo. We welcome Baldunicum as himself. Very appealing, Max Jaffa. That's nice, Max. What a team, Zebra Kid and Horace Batchelor on percussion. And a great favorite and a wonderful performer, all of us here, J. Arthur Rank on gong.
Yes, hello there.
Hello there.
Hello there. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So anyway, yes, welcome to Vapour Trails, and once again we have a guest with us, Tony Keen's back with us.
Hello there.
Hello there. Yes. And what we're doing today is we're celebrating the life and work of Neil Innes, who sadly passed away sometime around Christmas, wasn't it?
Back end of December, between Christmas and New Year. I was sort of looking at trending topics, and whenever somebody's name comes up on trending topics, you're always sort of horrified it's going to be for the wrong reason, and sometimes it's not for the wrong reason, but on this occasion it was for the wrong reason. I'm not sure I've been that affected by a musician dying since George Harrison died, I think. Right. I mean, not even Bowie, because Bowie was sort of... He was distant. He was an icon. He wasn't that much of a sort of... Whereas Neil Innes, even if you'd never met him, you felt he was your mate.
Yeah. When you look through this stuff and the people that he's kind of involved with, because that was the Bonzo Dog Doodah band from there. Was it the debut album, Gorilla, was it?
Debut album in 67.
Yeah.
67 was a really good year for the Bonzos, because their debut album comes out. You know, they're getting celebrity fans. Obviously... It's not the real Princess Anne on sousaphone. It's not the real Robert Morley on the guitar, but it is the real Eric Clapton on ukulele.
Right.
They got invited by Paul McCartney to be in Magical Mystery Tour.
Right, yes, of course, yeah.
That results in one of the good bits of Magical Mystery Tour. Basically, because the Bonzos came on and actually behaved like proper professionals, which is more than the Beatles were doing in August 1967.
Yeah.
And they also got a gig as the house band on a children's television comedy series.
Right, yeah.
Called Do Not Adjust Your Set.
Right,
which involved a lot of people that nobody at the time had ever heard of. But subsequently, 2 Knights of the Realm there.
Yeah.
Sir David Jason, Sir Michael Palin. Palin's writing partner, Terry Jones, who very sadly passed away yesterday.
Yeah.
Eric Idle and Terry Gilliam was involved in some of the later series of that. So 67 is a really good year for the Bonzos.
But we're going on to the next track, which is another Bonzo track from the album Tadpoles.
Yeah, I mean, this is at the heart of the Bonzos is the writing team of Neil Innes and Vivian Stanshall.
Yeah.
Now, they very, very rarely actually sat down in a room and wrote together. I think Neil Innes said they only did it on one song.
Right.
But what they generally did was embellished each other's works after they come in. And this is, I think, a classic example because it starts off as this sort of big psychedelic heavy rock Pink Floydy sort of thing. And then it goes into being much more English folk song. And that's all Neil Innes.
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's a monologue over the outro, which is pure Stanshall.
Right. Okay, right. Well, anyway, let's give it a go. This is the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. God, it's actually the Bonzo Dog Band.
By this point, they dropped Doodah.
They dropped the Doodah, yes. Probably for the best. Right, okay. This is Mr. Apollo.
And if you take his courses, he'll make you big and rough.
And you can beat up bullies till they cry, oh law, oh crikey, let go, you rotter, don't punish me.
When you're tough, you're very fit,
your voice is gruff,
it sounds like grit,
you are so strong,
and proud of it, thanks to Mr. Apollo. Follow Mr. Apollo. Everybody knows he's the greatest benefactor of mankind. Follow Mr. Apollo. Everybody knows that a healthy body makes a healthy mind. And if you take his courses, he'll make you big and rough.
And you can kick the sand right back in their faces. Kick! When you're tough,
you're very fit,
your voice is gruff,
it sounds like grit,
you are so strong,
and proud of it, thanks to Mr. Apollo. Follow Mr. Apollo. Everybody knows he's the greatest benefactor of mankind. Follow Mr. Apollo. Everybody knows that a healthy body makes a healthy mind.
Just give me 10 years of your life, and I'll trade in that puny flab for living muscle, the physique you deserve. Strong. Which husky shoulders to hold your shirt up.
He can do it for you.
5 years ago, I was a 4-stone apology. Today, I am 2 separate gorillas. No tiresome exercises, no tricks, no unpleasant bending. Wrestle poodles and win. Play beach ball. Shave your legs. Look over walls. Tease people. Brush them aside as though they were matchsticks. Express your breath.
Yeah, Mr. Apollo, Bonzo Dog Band. And we were just talking there about when it started, it was like, you know, this is Ziggy Stardust. Predated, isn't it? By 2 or 3 years. And it's kind of like, were they kind of thinking, oh, Space Oddity, we could do a pastiche on that? Or as later on as Bowie heard them and gone, actually, that's quite good. It's weird, isn't it? All those things interconnect.
Yeah. There's a German version of Mr. Apollo in which Stanschel's outro is in German. So if you've ever wanted to know what the German for 5 years ago I was a 4-stone apology, today I'm 2 separate gorillas, that's where you go to find
Oh, right,
out.
okay. I thought for a moment you was going to do it then.
No, I don't. Entschuldigung comes in as apology, but I'm not. Kind of unpleasant bending.
Yes, yeah. You know, the other thing we were saying is how a lot of Neil Innes's work can be seen as either comedy or novelty, but actually they're very good songs, aren't they? And because he was an extremely good musician.
It's always been the great comedy songs always have to stand up on their own as songs. And, you know, the great Bill Oddie, who did a lot of all the comedy songs for the Goodies, knew that. Mitch Benn knew that. But they have to stand up. And, you know, the things that don't really work as songs, you don't ever hear again. Howard Goodall knows that. Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
Mr. Apollo's from sort of 69. It's sort of right at the end of their career. It's got off Tadpoles. I think it is also on Keynsham, which is the album that they thought was their masterwork and which was then completely ignored by everybody else. Yeah. And so they broke up at the end of 69. And then I think it was United Artists acquired their record company and then went along to them and said, you still owe us another album, you know. And as a result, in 71... you got Bonzo's album Let's Make Up and Be Friendly, although it's only really Innes and Stanschel involved.
Right, yeah.
Dennis Cowan, who was their later bass player, plays bass on it anyway. You know, Roger Ruskin Spear and Legs Larry Smith are on a couple of tracks. Poor old Rodney Slater, who founded the Bonzos with Viv Stanschel, isn't on it at all. Right. Sometimes I don't think even Neil and Viv are actually working together. I don't think Viv's on this next track.
It's almost like the Monty Python's contract.
Contractual Obligation album.
That's the one. Thank you. Yes. Anyway,
well, it's very much the same sort of thing, but it does, and it's a contractual obligation album, and contractual obligations albums are never that great, but it's got 2 classic things. One is it's got the first Viv Stanschel Rawlinson End story on it. Yeah, which we're not going to play, but it's also got this track, Fresh Wound, which I kind of wanted to play this to sort of show that long before the Ruttles were any idea in anything, he was doing Beatles pastiches. Yeah.
It'll only take a minute of your time to tell
just thinking there, that's like the entire history of the Beatles in one song, isn't it?
It's quite a bit of it.
With super poppy, ending up in like, you know, that kind of like wig out sort of thing there.
This next track that we're going to play is probably his second most recognisable song, partly because the Python connection with what we're going to see. This is a track that he played a lot when he was touring with the Pythons, and it's a track that's really sort of stuck with him throughout his entire career, and it's off his first proper solo album.
Yeah, because it's always on the top list of recommendations on Spotify, iTunes, everything else. So, and also, I think maybe a certain young Mr. Gallagher may have been listening to this at some point.
Well, yes, the legal case rather proves that.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, this is Neil Innes from his first solo album, and How Sweet to Be an Idiot.
How sweet to be an idiot, as harmless as a cloud, too small to hide the sun, almost poking fun at the warm but insecure, untidy crowd. How sweet to be an idiot and dip my brain in joy, children laughing at my back with no fear of attack, as much retaliation as a toy. How sweet to be an idiot, how sweet. I tiptoed down the street, smile at everyone I meet. But suddenly a scream smashes through my dream. Fee, fi, fo, fo, I smell the blood of an asylum. Blood of an asylum? But mother, I'm playing so beautifully. Aha, listen, aha. Fee, fi, fo, fo, I smell the blood of an asylum. Hey you're such a pedant. You got as much brain as a dead ant, as much imagination as a caravan sight. But I still love you. Still love you. How sweet to be an idiot. How sweet. How sweet.
I was sort of expecting something else. Yes. How sweet to be an idiot, and imagine that Oasis ripping someone off. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was just saying, it's got an air of melancholy about it.
There's this massive sense of melancholy and regret, and he said in an interview once that he sort of, had this feeling that sort of with 70s consumer society, something had been lost. And that just goes through pretty much everything
Yeah.
he did. It's from the 70s onwards. So it starts with "How Sweet to Be an Idiot," but you can see it right the way through to sort of a track like "Imitation Song" that he did in I think early 2000s or something.
Yeah. Actually, the next part, because it's almost chronological, isn't it? This first part of your roughly,
more or less.
And we have actually got an interesting one next. A bit of wrestling.
Yeah, a bit of wrestling. And Neil Innes joined this band called Grimm's, which takes its initials from the three people. For the six people who were in it.
Yeah.
Six people. It's John Gorman, Roger McGough and Mike McGear, who'd come out the scaffold.
Right.
Andy Roberts, who was a guitar player that Innes knew and had worked with him on the last Bonzo's album and stuff. And the I is Innes, and the S is Viv Stanshall.
Right.
Although Viv's contribution was very sort of theoretical. I don't think he ever actually turned up for a recording session with them.
No, I could imagine in 1975 he was just out with Keith Moon morning.
Yeah.
Morning and night, I would have thought.
I mean, he did occasionally turn up and play live with them.
Yeah.
And then actually Grimm's became this enormous collective with huge numbers of people in it.
Yeah.
And all those. I have a feeling this may have originally been recorded in 73, but it didn't come out as a single until 75. But we've heard Neil Innes doing the Beatles, and here's Neil Innes doing the Beach Boys.
Yeah. He says, also with a kind of edge of some cracking glam rock going on as well, isn't it, really?
There is a bit of...
Yeah, so this is Grimm's, and this is Backbreaker.
I was the toughest guy in town. Used to throw my weight around. Then one night at our town hall, I fell in love. My baby wrestles in the ring. My baby, she's the sweetest thing. She's as pretty as a rose. If you disagree, she'll smash your nose. She's a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. She's as pretty as a rose. If you disagree, she'll smash your nose. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. She's the only one I care about. My baby really knocks me out. We're as happy as can be. She's really got a hold on me. She's as pretty as a rose. She'll smash your nose. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. 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 We're as happy as can be. My baby got a hold on me. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. 5'2", knows kung fu. She'll tear the heart right out of you. Does anybody see my backbreaker? She's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. She's as pretty as a rose. Smash your nose. Up a backbreaker, she's a backbreaker. 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 Up a backbreaker, she's a...
We're knights of the round table, we dance where we're able. We do routines, to chorus scenes, to footwork in bed cable. We dine well here in Camelot, we eat ham and jam and spam a lot. We're knights of the round table, our shows are for mid-table. So many times we give them rhymes that are quite unsingable. We're rock and mad in Camelot, we sing from the diaphragm. It's a busy life in Camelot. I have to push the pram along.
Camelot, it is a silly place.
It is a silly place, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. I love that.
An unusual songwriting combination because it's Neil Innes writing the music, John Cleese, Graham Chapman writing the words.
Right, okay.
And then it's actually sung by the Fred Tomlinson singers, who were the sort of singers who did the Lumberjack song, and the Span song, and all the other stuff. And that's a sort of ticking off the sort of Neil Innes Python connection. A lot of the press started with Neil Innes Python collaborator, Neil Innes Python songwriter, and his actual contribution to the Pythons was a fairly small part of Python and a fairly small part actually of his own career.
Right,
so Carol Cleveland, who was with the Pythons from the very beginning, was still there right all the way up to Meaning of Life, and then came back for the One Down, Five to Go reunion concert. She's got a much better claim to be the seventh Python than Neil Innes has. Really. Obviously he was known to the Pythons because he'd worked with Idle and Jones and Palin, and Cleese and Chapman used to dash home in order to watch. They were big fans of Do Not Adjust Your Set, so they knew his work. And he writes, I think, the music for one song on each Monty Python's previous record and Monty Python's Matching Tie and Handkerchief.
Right.
But it's really only when John Cleese drops out for the fourth television series that Innes really gets heavily involved in working with them, and he's writing jokes and he's appearing on screen and he's writing music for them. And then he does Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where he writes some songs and would have written more, only the budget ran out. And then he goes on tour with them. And then it's kind of sort of, he doesn't really do very much. I mean, he does work with individual Pythons again in a bit of the future, and he does the Hollywood Bowl thing. But by Life of Brian, John Dupre, Eric Idle's mate, is coming in and doing starting to do a lot more of the music. And after that, a lot of the music for Python is very much John Dupre, and Innes goes off and does his own thing, really. But where the Python connection, of course, is really important is after Python had finished, most of the Pythons get offered their own television series. Cleese gets Fawlty Towers, Palin and Jones get Ripping Yarns, Eric Idle gets Rutland Weekend Television. Right. And he invites Neil Innes to come in and do the music for Rutland Weekend Television. That's what he does. And the theme tune for Rutland Weekend Television is an old song of Innes's that he strips the words out of called L'amour perdu. Right. And so this is the next thing I wanted to choose, L'amour perdu, which is a great example of one of the things that Innes really likes, which is wordplay. Yeah. And puns and stuff. And this, again, this is something that he comes back to, but this is the original version from 73's How Sweet to Be an Idiot album.
Circonstances et tout le monde est Tuesday too, avec la raison d'être amante. Cynical, comment allez-vous? Hello, c'est la même chose, you love me, et je t'adore, et Windows too. Regardez-moi pour des aching, toujours là. merci beaucoup. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Toujours l'amour et merci beaucoup. I feel good, I feel bad, I feel happy, I feel sad. Am I in love? I must be in love. I feel rich, I feel poor. I'm in doubt, I feel sure. Am I in love? I must be in love. Anytime of the day I can see her face when I close my eyes. She's a dream, she is real, can't explain how I feel, am I in love? I must be in love. Anytime of the day I can see her face when I close my eyes. Am I dead or alive? Can my full heart survive? Am I in love? I must be in love. I feel good, I feel bad, I feel happy, I feel sad, am I in love? I must be in love. I must be in love. I must be in love. I must be in love.
Yeah, I think that's going to be our earworm corner of the week, actually. And I did this earlier and I can't get it out of my head. Really, it's magical, I think, actually,
Yeah.
as a track. And like you say, it's got every Beatles stereotypical element within it.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, that track was originally a track, one of the musical numbers that Innes did for Rutland Weekend Television.
Right.
And Idle had the idea of doing this sketch with a reporter where the camera just moves away from him and he's having to chase the camera,
yeah.
which they do in Rutland Weekend Television, then absolutely replicate for
Right, of course,
the
yeah.
Ruttles.
Yeah.
And Innes came up with this song which sort of fitted that sketch, and it becomes the Ruttles. And Eric Idle hosted Saturday Night Live, and he brought the clip of I Must Be in Love,
Right.
the original version. And also he had Innes came up with a new song, which is the thing we're going to hear next, Cheese and Onions.
Right.
And the fact that this was come up with for Saturday Night Live, I think it explains why it's got more obvious jokes than a lot of the Ruttles. And there's a very, very obvious silly joke. And also, if you listen to Cheese and Onions, it's much more a pastiche of what Lennon was doing in the 1970s. And it's meant to be a track by Nasty the Ruttle who lives in New York.
Right, yeah.
So it's got that huge sort of Phil Spector, enormous amounts of reverb on the voice.
Yeah.
And it's got sort of Lennon's heavy, really based on quite lazy piano chords, which was what Lennon was doing in that part of his career.
Yeah.
So,
Did he? Do you know if he actually took to this at all, Lennon, or is he aware? Because we were just saying
Lennon was certainly aware of it, and I think Lennon. Well, no, Lennon liked it. He did warn Innes to leave a couple of tracks off the album because he thought they were a bit close to actual Beatles tracks. Which ironically means those are the ones that Neil Innes still makes money from because they weren't the ones that they were subsequently sued over.
Right.
So, yeah, Lennon knew about it and liked it. George Harrison, obviously massively enthusiastic for it because he appears in it.
Yeah.
McCartney, I think, wasn't particularly amused, but McCartney's like that. He's when the jokes get too close to him, he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're.
I don't think Ringo was on the planet at the time. So. But, okay, well, let's play this then. This is also from the Ruttles album. And, yeah, like you say, this is Cheese and Onions.
OMG. It's Vapour Trails on Radio Lewis.
We have no time for lovers' games of hide and seek or cat and mouse. I come home tired, you call me names, you work all week at keeping house. I understand the drudgery of what you do, but don't you think the office is the same for me? You ask me to unblock the sink. Life is getting shorter, nickel, dime and quarter. Talk is getting cheaper, love is getting deeper. I get to work under the sink, I bang my head, the spanner slips. I cut my hand and wish I had a drink, but 'cause instead the water drips. You nag at me, I raise my voice, the baby's toys are on the floor. You say be quiet, I have no choice, the slightest noise disturbs next door. Life is getting shorter, nickel, diamond, quarter. Talk is getting cheaper, love is getting deeper. The kettle boils, the baby cries, I pick him up, his little teeth are coming through. I dry his eyes, you break a cup, and underneath the kitchen light, your pretty face is close to tears, and so my heart goes out to you. As we embrace, love reappears to play its part. Life is getting shorter, nickel, diamond, quarter. Talk is getting cheaper, love is getting deeper. Life is getting shorter, nickel, diamond, quarter. Talk is getting cheaper, love is getting
Yes, in his book of records.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's the height of the pinnacle of his career. Basically, after Rutland Weekend Television, Eric Idle getting offered his series on the back of Python, on the back of Rutland Weekend Television, The Ruttles, Neil Innes gets offered his own series.
Right.
And it's the producer of Rutland Weekend Television. He and Neil liked doing the musical interludes in Rutland Weekend Television, so it's why don't we do an entire series of this stuff? And it ran for 3 series. It's pretty hard to get hold of now because I don't think it's never gone out on DVD. I think that's because of rights issues, probably.
It was also kind of tucked away in the schedules a bit, wasn't it?
It was tucked away in the schedules. I mean, I think I missed the first series and only caught up with it when the second series came out. Also, there were all sorts of things slipped into in his book of records. He would slip in other entertainers would come in and do occasional bits, and they were the sort of people who otherwise just wouldn't get on television. So he has Ralph Steadman as a guest on one occasion. Right. It's a mixture of old songs that he's done again or new stuff. And Love Is Getting Deeper, which we just heard, is one of his new ones. And again, it's a great expression of that sort of melancholy that Innes has got. And it's obviously, on the surface, it's a parody of that sort of French chanson and the sort of thing that, Richard Stilgoe or Peter Skelling would do on the Two Ronnies. Yeah. But also, it's a really touching, moving portrait of what happens to love in a long-term relationship. Yeah. A lot of his stuff is like that. It's almost sort of, you're getting to the real Neil when you hear stuff like that. Next song is sort of much more for the jokes. This connects with my only I nearly met Neil Innes anecdote, which is I went to see his show in Edinburgh in the 1986, I think it would have been 86, 87. Neil Innes is Joe Public. He was sort of saying to the audience, right, what does Norway mean to you? And there were all sorts of stuff and, trees and somebody said pining for the fjords. Right. To which Innes said, what kind of talk is that? And I was the one who shouted out Eurovision Song Contest because that was the connection for me with Norway because a couple of years previously, they'd very famously had no points at all.
Yeah.
And then that year, they'd actually then managed to win it.
Right.
And that was the point that Neil was looking for in order to lead into this next track.
I see. So you was basically a plant in the audience.
I was an unwitting plant in the audience, as I so often have been in my theatrical career.
Right, okay, so, this is from Off the Record, although, to be honest, the recording I found is actually off the Guinness Book of Records, so I ripped it off YouTube, honestly. And, what I was going to say, he seems to be in character in all these.
Yeah, well, he has this character that he first debuted in Rutland Weekend Television and then pulls out again through a great deal of Guinness Book of Records.
Right.
And the character's called Nick Cabaret, basically because it was nicked from Cabaret. He's basically doing Joel Grey's from Cabaret. And somebody on Facebook said to me that they always found this character very, very sinister, rather dubious. It's like, and it's the character that he pulls out for the chansons and the big
I was going to
ballads
say this one where he kind of drops in various languages is exactly Cabaret, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, this is Eurovision. Oh, sorry, Mr. Eurovision Song Contest.
Hey, Mr. Eurovision Song Contest man, would you like to hear my song? Bing, bang, bong. Inky, pinky, parlez-vous, wunderbar, ooh la la, olé. Song contest man, would you like to hear my song? Bing, bang, boom. Inky, pinky, parlez-vous, wunderbar, ooh la la, olé. Song contest man, would you like to hear my song? Bing, bang, boom. Inky, pinky, parlez-vous, wunderbar, ooh la la, olé.
Yes, you can tell that's ripped from the TV, can't you?
One of the things that he got into from about the 1980s onwards was working on children's stuff. So he did, I think he did some musical work on Faggle Lock.
Did he really? Yeah.
I think so. I may be wrong about that. But he certainly did other kids' shows, kids' records that he wrote the music for. And we got a very quick snippet here from Raggy Dolls, for which he wrote the music and I think did the narration.
He did
as
the
well.
narration, yeah.
So yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, so it's bring back the memories for everyone from 1986, the Raggy Dolls theme.
It's not much of a life when you're just a pretty face.
Just to be whoever you are is no disgrace. Don't be scared if you don't fit in. Look who's in the reject bin. It's the Raggy Dolls.
Raggy doll,
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy doll,
Dolls like you and me. Raggy Dolls.
Raggy doll,
Raggy Dolls.
Raggy doll.
Made him perfectly. So if you got a bump on your nose or lumps on your toes, do not despair. Be like the Raggy Dolls and say I just don't care. 'Cause Raggy Dolls,
Raggy doll,
Raggy Dolls are happy just to be Raggy Dolls, Raggy Dolls, dolls like you and me.
Hearing the light from the window, I'm seeing the sound of the sea. My feet have come loose from their moorings. I'm feeling quite wonderfully free, and I think I will travel to Rio, using the music for flight. There's nothing I know of in Rio, but it's something to do with the night. There's wings to the thought behind fancy. There's wings to the thought behind play. Dancing to rhythms of laughter, make laughter the rhythm of rain. So I think I will travel to Rio, using the music for flight. There's nothing I know of in Rio, but it's something to do with the night. It's only a whimsical notion to fly down to Rio tonight, and I probably won't fly down to Rio, but then again I just might. What should I do? Oh, decisions, decisions, decisions. I don't know, I really am in two minds. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. I'm in a dichotomy. It's only a whimsical notion to fly down to Rio tonight, and I probably won't fly down to Rio, but then again I just might. I feel such a sense of well-being. The problems have come to be solved, and what I thought was proper for battle, I now see is proper for love. So I think I will travel to Rio, using the music for flight. There's nothing I know of in Rio, but it's something to do with the night.
dither. Some of the finest footballers in the world are going to be there. And if I don't go, I'm going to miss it. Darling, have you seen my maracas?
Oh, it's brilliant. Yes, quite the take on a Mike Nesbitt number. From Mike from the Monkees. That was 1977. He did the very serious original. And there's Neil Innes and the Values doing a cover and kind of highlighting the comedic level of those lyrics.
Yeah,
It's a very serious song.
He really makes it his own. I'd forgotten that it was a Mike Nesmith song, and he's and one of the things about Neil is that he never really stopped working.
Right,
he's always out there touring or making a few records or whatever, and he's very active on Twitter. I mean, he's still tweeting up until about 2 days before he died,
right?
And that's just sort of an example of the sort of stuff that he was doing in the 21st century. What I wanted to do now is sort of backtrack quite a bit. One of the things that Neil Innes did a lot was he revisited his old songs.
Right, yeah.
Partly he kind of had to.
Right, yeah.
I mean, 2 episodes of the Innes Book of Records would used up an entire album's worth of material.
Right, yeah.
And he made 18. So he's kind of... he couldn't have written all new material for that. He kind of has to go back.
Yeah.
But I think he actually really enjoyed... going back to his own old songs and saying, well, perhaps we could do it like this. And this is a really good example. It's Humanoid Boogie, and first of all, you're going to hear the original 1968 version by the Bonzo, and then you'll hear the version that he did in 1981 for the Innes Book of Records, where he takes a very, very different approach to the track, as you will hear.
Yeah, I think this is actually a first to have the same song played twice on Vapour Trails, let alone in a row. So yes, Humanoid Boogie ×2.
Hi there!
Some people said it lies, but you don't find many trying to say it with humanoid. Well, the
Serenity sells like an infrared hot dog. Motorbike heartbeats flutter to the sutter of the humanoid heartthrob, sopping out the ticker-tape tune by the light of the moon. Bleep, bleep, keep rockin' daddy, do the stroll, because the humanoid boogie's full of humanoid rock and roll. Sugar Man and Henrietta Holocaust introduced to you what's new on the humanoid scene. It's a wow, it's a scream. Knick-knack, paddywhack, give the dog a humanoid. Let's have fun, gonna get the personality cell. If all gangs well. Bleep, bleep, keep rockin' daddy, catch the power. Because the humanoid boogie's been crusted on two-way humanoid. Away you go, Jimmy. Charts voted by the people of the Rackaby and public oil. Program to a multiple response ratio. It's a wow, it's a gas, it's a Wall Street crash, like cigar rush. Bleep, bleep, keep rockin' daddy to the stroll, because the humanoid boogie's full of humanoid rock and roll. I said the humanoid boogie's full of humanoid rock and roll. The humanoid boogie's full of humanoid rock and roll.
Yes, sorry. Yes, I was lost in the moment there. I was just remembering, of course, he's not only a Scotsman, but he's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
as a Scotsman,
and there's another version that he did about 5 years later, which is very much 80s electronica funk version of it. Right. So I mean, that's probably the widest range he's ever done with sort of the single song. He's done several versions of I'm the Urban Spaceman, which we'll come to next, but they're all somewhat more similar.
Yeah. Now, Urban Spaceman, now, my particular story I've got around this, which we was just talking about, is my nan used to have a big old radiogram thing. And when I was about 4, I toddled down there, because she was only around the corner, toddled down there, and one of the albums she had was one of these kind of weird kind of instrumental versions of things. And what I used to really love about it was the label in the middle had this amazing silver V and this amazing kind of blue colour. And there was one track that I always insisted that she played, which was Winchester Cathedral. Now, the thing was, I didn't realise at the time, well, obviously I didn't realise at the time, because I was 4, but I didn't realise for many years later that was an instrumental done on the cheap, that the actual song, there was actual lyrics in the hit single, which I always thought was the Bonzo Dog Band, but turns out it was the New Vaudeville Band, except...
Well, this is that actually shows what a really nice bloke Neil Innes was, and everybody always talks about what a really nice bloke he was, and sometimes sort of perhaps too nice for his own good sometimes. But the New Vaudeville Band had this hit single with Winchester Cathedral, except the New Vaudeville Band didn't exist. It was a bunch of studio musicians who'd been brought together to record this one track. And then all of a sudden they got to appear on Top of the Pops.
Right.
The producer involved contacts the Bonzos because they do similar sort of music. At that time they were very much doing vaudeville recreations, with Mickey's Son and Daughter and Hunting Tigers Out in India and all those sort of vaudeville tracks. The Bonzos say, no, we're not really interested, except their trumpeter, Bob Kerr, decides he is interested. And so he goes off to recruit some other people, and the New Vaudeville Band proceed to appear on Top of the Pops, doing the Bonzos act.
Right.
And this did not go down terribly well with the other members of the Bonzos, and it although it did actually force them to change their act,
right? Okay,
and to move away from the vaudeville stuff that they've been doing and do more of their own original songs and do more of the rock stuff. So without that, you'd probably never have heard of the Bonzos. The nice thing is, if somebody had done that in most bands, that would be, they would be a pariah, would never want to have anything to do with them ever again. Neil Innes put the Bonzos back together in the, I think, 2010s or something like that. He invites Bob Kerr to come and be a member of the Bonzos again, which Bob duly does, which is a great story.
And so that does lead us on to what is probably their most famous track. I guess in a way Neil Innes' most famous track.
Neil Innes is, as he said whenever he played it, this was his medley of hit. The Bonzos record company, I think it's fair enough to say that the Bonzos record company hated them.
Right.
And they hated their record company.
Right.
But the record company was always on at them to do a hit single.
Right.
They never came up with anything. And then in sort of 68, Neil goes to Viv and says, I think I've come up with this song that might actually be a hit single.
Right.
And so Viv apparently never really liked it, although he quite enjoyed doing the recorder stuff. And we also, with this, go back to the Beatles connection, because the record is produced by one Apollo C. Vermouth,
right? Yes.
Which is a pseudonym which covers two individuals, Paul McCartney,
right?
And McCartney had said, "I'll come in and produce it for you," and he had some ideas, and he plays ukulele on the track. The other person who is part of Apollo C. Vermouth apparently is Gus Dudgeon.
Right.
Which, of course, brings us back then to the Bowie connection.
Right.
Because I think Gus Dudgeon produced Space Oddity.
Oh, right.
Because Tony Visconti wouldn't do it, because Tony Visconti thought it was crap. He thought it was commercial nonsense. I'm not having anything to do with you on this one, David. I'll come and do the rest of the album. I won't do that track. So, maybe that's where you've got the Bowie Bonzos.
Yeah. It's quite
connection.
Yeah. Okay, then. Right. So, without further ado, I'm the Urban Spaceman.
Don't feel pain. If you were to knock me down, I'd just get up again. I'm the urban spaceman, baby. I'm making out. I'm all about. I wake up every morning with a smile upon my face. My natural exuberance spills out all over the place. I'm the urban spaceman, I'm intelligent and clean. Know what I mean? I'm the urban spaceman, as a lover, second to none. It's a lot of fun. I never let my friends down, I've never made a boo. I'm a glossy magazine, an advert in the tube. I'm the urban spaceman, baby. Here comes the twist. I don't exist.
Oh, that's marvellous. I do love that song. And we're coming up to the final track, Tony, so I'd like to say thanks for coming in again.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a shame it's under such sort of sad circumstances, but I kind of think we've been celebrating Neil rather than sort of mourning
absolutely,
him.
yeah. And I think for people that might have thought, oh, Neil Innes, there isn't much there. There's loads.
Huge amount. I mean, the amount of stuff that I've had to leave off.
I know. For those who can't see it, there's another A4 sheet under here full of bonus tracks.
But things like his protest song that he did with the Pythons and on Rutland Weekend Television. I've suffered with my music. Now it's your turn.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or indeed the other thing I really wanted to get on and just couldn't was Godfrey Daniel, which is his pitch perfect Elton John Bernie Taupin pastiche.
Yes.
Oh, seek that out on YouTube.
Yeah.
In one of the several versions that are out there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like I say, thanks for coming in and sharing this stuff with me, Tony. And yes, and thanks to everyone out there listening, all the sharers and carers. And as you may know, we do have some badges now. Vapour Trails Sharer and Carer, enormous badges they are. And also some very special green ones, which us elite coming in and doing this.
It's a funny definition of elite, but never mind.
Probably not the elite you're thinking of. But yeah, so if you want to get in touch, it's vapourtrails66@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook under Steve Vapour Trails, or just come and harass me in the street somewhere. I'm the one wearing the very fancy boots. Aren't they fancy?
Oh, yeah, they are, actually.
They're lovely, aren't they? Yeah. Anyway, we've got one more track to go, Tony, so we're going back to the Ruttles again.
Yeah, in the 1990s, there was the big thing with the Beatles anthology.
Right,
and
yes.
There are 3 multiple CD collections of all the little, background noises and bad takes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting, isn't it? Because it's like the version of One After the 909, which they kind of stitched together. Because I think McCartney hadn't got a plectrum or something. He'd left it behind, and there's all kinds of bizarre things on there, isn't there?
So Neil decided to do another Ruttles album, and it's called Archaeology, and obviously, but he'd had a bad experience with the first Ruttles album, whereby the people who own the Beatles' back catalogue, ATV Music, not Lennon McCartney or anything like that, they don't have any control over the back catalogue, but ATV Music had basically sued on the basis of these are too much like the Beatles.
Right.
And although under sort of protection of parody, they really didn't have a leg to stand on, Neil's own publishing company wouldn't fight it because they were worried that they might end up lumbered with a lot of cost.
Yeah. And also, notwithstanding, at least 2 of the Beatles quite liked it.
Yeah, well, yeah. But as I said, they had no control.
They've got no control,
So he lost control of a lot of his songs. He doesn't get any royalties from them. Sometimes he's not even allowed to be credited for them. So for Archaeology, instead of writing new songs, I mean, he wrote a couple of new songs, but most of it is old Neil Innes songs done in a Ruttles fashion.
Right, okay.
And this track, Shangri-La, is a track that he'd first done on Rutland Weekend Television.
Right.
And he'd kept coming back to it for all sorts of little things. Again, it's quite a sort of mournful track in certain places. It's quite a melancholy track. But he basically just takes it and ruttles it up.
Right.
And turns it into Hey Jude.
Right, okay. I think an apt one to finish the show on. So, thanks again, Tony, and we'll see you again soon.
Did you ever get the feeling that the truth is less revealing than a downright lie? And did you think your head was hip to certain things it's not equipped to qualify? All day long the sky is blue and everyone says how'd you do in Shangri-La. Every day's a perfect day, you can go your own sweet way in Shangri-La. In Shangri-La, It's the means through which we earn our daily bread. Insisting on an equal cut, some people even bust a gut to stay ahead. All day long the sky is blue and no one has a lot to do in Shangri-La. In Shangri-La, in Shangri-La, in Shangri-La, in Shangri-La. You can be wherever you are in Shangri-La. It's a strange world we live in, but surely we're forgiven if we don't know where to turn. With paradise for hire on the back streets of desire, we all live and love. All day long the sky is blue and everyone's in love with you in Shangri-La. Lovers dance and children sing, and everybody does their thing in Shangri-La. In Shangri-La, in Shangri-La, in Shangri-La, in Shangri-La. You can be wherever you are in Shangri-La. In Shangri-La, in Shangri-La, in Shangri-La, in Shangri-La. You can be wherever you are in Shangri-La. All together now, 1, 2, 3. La-di-do-da, la-di-da. Here we are in Shangri-La. 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 Isn't it nice? La-di-do-da, la-di-da. Here we are in Shangri-La. La-di-do-da, la-di-da. Here we are in Shangri-La. It's such a happy place to be. La-di-do-da, la-di-da. Here we are in Shangri-La. La-di-do-da, la-di-da. Here we are in Shangri-La.
Okay, that was the last song. You can fast forward and turn over the tape now.
Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.